people who were in a coma, what change surprised you when you woke up? I was in a coma for 4 days. When I woke up, everyone was talking about the baby boy I had. I had lost my long-term memory and didn't even remember being pregnant. My son was at the children's hospital in the NICU. I delivered him via C-section at 29 weeks. All this was due to me having Crohn's disease. I found out after I woke up. My colon had ruptured during my pregnancy. My husband said I was talking like a child when I first woke up. When I woke I felt super tired, but then the next few days, kinda restless. I remembered one conversation my mom had with a nurse while I was under. After a couple of days I got my long-term memory back and remembered everything up until my second surgery, then nothing until I woke up. My son was my third surgery. Edit, so my son was what surprised me. Back in the 90s, my great-grandfather had a stroke. He was in a coma for 3 weeks, and when he woke up, he could not speak English. All he could speak was the Choctaw language. He had learned it when he was a kid, because his family lived right near a Choctaw reserve, and he played with a lot of those kids. He spoke it fluently at that time, but forgot it over his life to where he couldn't remember any of it by this time. This went on for around 10 days, and then he woke up from a night's sleep and could suddenly speak only English again, not remembering a word of Choctaw. He was also able to repeat verbatim every conversation that had been held in the room that he was in. A good friend of our family went into a coma for half a year. Finally, when he woke up, he was stunned why his wife looked so old. He actually lost the last 15 years of his memory. He knew he had 2 children, but they were babies and he didn't even know about his 3rd child. And the memory never came back. He skipped from no mobile phones to smartphones, to laptops. Everything was new to him. Being stuck in early 90s but actually being in the 2000s, there was a lot of change to handle. But learning you missed all your children growing up was the hardest for him. My wife was in a coma, 2 weeks medically induced. When she woke she had very wrong memories. They were all based on conversations people had while in the room with her. For example, she thought they flew her to Washington, D.C. for treatment. While she was in a coma, my father-in-law mentioned how he just flew back into town from D.C. on a work trip. Somehow, she overheard this while out and her brain interpreted it to mean she flew to D.C. Even after we explained to her the reality of where she was, it took days for her to come to terms with reality. Edit, she was in a coma about 10 years ago. She is not currently in a coma. I was in a coma for 4 days from bacterial meningitis. When I woke up I was completely deaf. I had to communicate with my parents and doctors with a notepad and pen. Some hearing gradually returned in my left ear, but the right ear is still 100% deaf to this day. My wife was in a medically induced coma for 4 days. She had a reaction to contrast dye and her heart stopped for 20 minutes. For nearly 3 months, she was confabulating about her long-dead parents. She would speak about them like they were in the next room. Or she would say her daughter or brother called. But they hadn't. Over and over she thought her mom was alive, then her dad. Drove me crazy having to, gently, correct her many times per day. She would come up with amazing tales about what people, relatives, friends, neighbors, were doing, what they said. Truly creative fiction. 3 months later, she began to come back. The confabulations stopped. Now things are reversed. She can remember recent events but her long-term memories are gone. I don't know what that's like, but it must be awful. She cries sometimes for her lost memories, but overall she is doing very well. About 20 years ago, my cousin had a severe head injury from a fall. He was about 20 at the time. He was in a coma for almost 4 weeks. When he woke up, he fairly quickly discovered that his memory was eidetic. He could repeat entire conversations back word for word, and even tell you the date and time you said something. Also, he could memorize images with just a few seconds glance. His memory is still eidetic today. It's annoying as fuck. Whenever he reminds me of something I said in the past, usually something I can't even remember, I suggest that we hit him in the head again. I was in a coma for close to 6 weeks. When I woke I had to learn everything again. I had most of my speech abilities, but my motor control was horrid. I had to figure out how to wipe my ass as well as walk up and down stairs again. That took about 3 weeks. I had lost a shit ton of weight too. I was 6 feet 3 inches and weighed about 145. Edit. My cousin was in a coma cause of a motorcycling accident. When he woke up, it's like he was transported back in his younger days. Acts and talks like a kid. He's better now after about 7 years, though there's still something off with the way he speaks. He stutters and talks fast like how children do when they're excited. He has gotten talkative too. So what has surprised him when he woke up is the fact that he has a daughter of his own. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.